Alright guys, this is Jerningham here. As you can see there, that says Birmingham, Central London, Glasgow, South London, North London, Salford, Windsor, Tottington, so Salford's in Manchester. All these things on here is where people are clapping for the NHS so they can appreciate what they do, because a lot of loved ones are going to die in this virus pandemic. Or, it's very sad anyway, but that's why they're all clapping, and it's all live, apparently. So we're going to see.
In these incredibly difficult and challenging times, and we've only shown you a snapshot. A few of our cameras dotted around the country, and those
see what else is on the news. I don't know what else is here.
Thousands of streets, I'm sure, and it wasn't just the clapping. I was glad to hear the pots, the pans, and of course the skirl.
So you guys will see at the beginning the clapping was there, but let's see here. Numbers of people who have died COVID-19 has rise by 471, 4,503 yesterday.
Yeah, it's still going, Dermot. I can tell you in this street in Clarkson, just
Glasgow,
they were clapping.
Sky Central News.
Neighbours up and down the street clapping in time to Scotland the Brave. This is
1 million COVID tested a day by the end of April.
Piping centre in Glasgow, out with his two young sons, giving a rousing rendition of Scotland the Brave. A Scottish twist, I suppose, on the clapping idea. We're going to have a wee chat with Finlay as soon as he's ready. Just take a look up the street. You can see people, the neighbours have come out, clapping in time to the music. A round of applause for the bagpiper. Finlay, let me extend my 2 metre long microphone pole. Let me ask you, why is that the thing to do tonight?
I guess at this difficult time we're all doing what we can, and as musicians we can play music and try and bring people together, and that's what we've tried to do tonight.
Yeah, why is it important to celebrate and to show gratitude to the frontline workers?
They're keeping us safe, they're keeping us fed, they're keeping us mobile, they're keeping us safe essentially. So it's a real gratitude to them and a real thank you to them. So that's what we can do as musicians. Thank them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for playing for us, Finlay. Let's speak to one of the neighbours. Hello, sir.
Hello there.
Hi, what's your name?
Gordon.
This is live now, guys, in Glasgow and live Central London, but this is a pre-recorded video that I'm doing to show you guys it was live, if you're not seeing it.
In the care homes as well.
Got two sandwiches there, as you can see on the chair, which we'll be eating later.
And lots of other support people, keeping the whole thing hanging together, I suppose.
And let me ask you this.
Dated of John Hopkins Universal suggested global numbers of COVID-19 has risen to 50,000.
I can manage to get out. I cycle, try to get out my bike.
Irish Health Officer says the numbers of people have died. COVID-19 risen by 13 to 98, with the numbers confirmed cases 402 to 3,849.
This time of year we're usually in and it's dark.
Italy health officer says the numbers of deaths who could have risen by 760 to 13,915, with the total numbers confirmed cases risen by like 1,502,402 yesterday. I could have got it wrong there, but French health officer says the numbers of people who died
and it's going to get worse.
With COVID-19 have risen by 471, with 4,503 seen yesterday.
A second time in a short space of time. Thank you for joining us. We've heard from you already. Fiona, you work in the Glasgow Royal.
Yeah.
Tell me, you're a healthcare worker. You've been applauded by the nation tonight. How does that make you feel?
It obviously makes you feel very proud to be part of the organisation. But it's the people that are really putting themselves out there that I think we really need to fully appreciate. Not just your doctors and nurses, but your porters, your clerical staff and things. So yeah, it's a frightening time, a worrying time for everyone. So I think we've come together, so all good.
Do you feel support, solidarity?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I mean, Scotland's great for that anyway, but I think even more so at the moment, so.
What about you, Grim? How do you feel after coming out in the street, all the neighbours together? We haven't.
It's good. We are keeping our social distance, yes. So we are all together. It's good to get the neighbours together. It's good to support a good cause. There's a lot of things going on in the world just now. There's a lot of people working that are probably unseen, and it's good to thank everybody as a whole. You have all the support functions, you have all the food chains, and all the manufacturers that are keeping all the goods coming into the homes. So it's good. It's good to be proud.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Graham. Clearly, we're out celebrating and showing gratitude to healthcare workers. There's a lot of discussion about shortages and a lack of strategy and how the country generally is tackling this virus. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Strategy is not easy. It's something you have to sit down and you plan. And as everything's evolving on a daily basis, I think the strategy is going to change as everything comes along. So, do we have a strategy? I think the government's done a good job, and we are developing the strategy. And is it working? I couldn't tell you, but there is a definite move to make things happen.
Great stuff. Okay, Graham, Fiona, thank you very much indeed. So there you go. That's the view from the street. The street in Clarkston, just outside Glasgow. Bagpipes, applause, an emotional release, I suppose, there, and certainly a clear show of support, solidarity and gratitude towards frontline workers everywhere.
Certainly is, and replicated up and down the country in so many thousands of streets, James. And I'll tell you what, I bet there's going to be one big banging street party taking place when this is all over. And hopefully that's while the weather's still good. So many streets coming out, so many communities coming out that are self-isolating, coming out to show their appreciation, first and foremost, for the National Health Service and those hundreds of thousands of people who are battling this coronavirus crisis. But tonight wasn't just for them, it was for all those people who are keeping us going while this goes on. The supermarket workers, the delivery drivers, the teachers, the refuse workers, the emergency services. I mean, the list goes on. That's by no means exhaustive. And one imagines that it will take place again this time next Thursday. Okay, well, let's get back to the reason why that has to take place. Today's news now. And the Health Secretary has recovered from his own clash with coronavirus. And today he said he was determined to fight it with everything he's got. Matt Hancock promised better protective equipment for NHS staff. He wrote off billions of its debt as well and said he wanted 100,000 tests per day to be taking place by the end of this month. He was speaking after the confirmation that another 569 people have lost their lives in the UK, bringing the total number of deaths connected with the
Gone up
virus
again
to
2,921.
33,718 people have now tested positive for COVID-19.
Nearly 3,000 people.
Self-isolation, the Health Secretary wrote off £13.4 billion of NHS debt. He also announced the delivery of about 45 million pieces of protective equipment, PPE, in one day, and outlined a 5-point plan for testing. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, reports on the government's testing pledge.
This is horrible, and I can only apologise for it. I go right to the back of your throat at one side.
The coronavirus tests might be uncomfortable, but what's even worse is the shortage of these swabs for frontline NHS staff. This new centre in Fife has only been going for 48 hours. The Health Secretary only just back on the front line himself with a message to his frontline NHS staff.
I come back redoubled.
Yeah.
My determination to fight this virus with everything I've got, and we will strain every sinew to defeat it once and for all. And I'll stop at nothing to make sure that frontline staff have the right equipment so that they're safe and can have the confidence they need to do their jobs.
And a tacit admission to all of us, the government has dropped the ball on testing, now trying to pick it up.
Let's first
remember 2 years ago.
Always to ensure that testing is available to patients who need it.
Pretty much.
Next, to expand testing to critical NHS staff and their families. And I can announce today that we're expanding testing for NHS staff further. Third, as we ramp up the numbers, we'll test critical key workers, and over time, we'll expand testing to the community. I am now setting the goal of 100,000 tests per day by the end of this month. That is the goal, and I am determined that we will get there.
Testing crucial to help resolve the health crisis and get Britain back to work.
Don't believe that when I see it. I mean, Germany are doing more tests anyway.
Offer the hope that people who think they've had the disease will know they're immune and can get back to life as much as possible.
But a warning too that immunity may not be guaranteed.
The measure is of an antibody, therefore there is some immunity, but the question of whether that immunity is enough to stop you being
Director Health Improvement, Public Health, England.
As time goes on.
Newtown or something.
It would be very. I think we have to be optimistic that it would give some immunity, but we're just not quite sure how much at the moment.
The outgoing Labour leader says the government has fallen well short when it comes to testing.
The only way you can get on top of it is by knowing how severe...
Gets on my nerves, Jeremy Corbyn. Some people agree and some people probably like Jeremy Corbyn. Some people hate Boris Johnson and don't like him, and some people like Boris Johnson, but just gets on my nerves. Jeremy Corbyn's one of them people that shouts at the back of the room. He was trying to get Prime Minister, this guy, but he lost. Boris Johnson won.
When Boris Johnson says, as he did in his video address that he did last night, that the ambition is to really ramp up testing, that's what they're really doing, does it irritate you, given that that's not the reality on the ground?
It irritates me a great deal. When nearly 3 weeks ago, John Ashworth and I met him to raise these very points with him, saying the importance of getting on top of testing, and it seemed to me that the facilities of the government to get that testing done have simply not been effective.
More facilities
Beth Rigby
now
and Jeremy
Corbyn all the
Corbyn.
time as the government sets a target to go from 10,000 tests a day to 100,000 in just a month. The scale of the ambition matched by the scale of the crisis. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Westminster.
So, as you've just been hearing there, the Health Secretary has set out the goal of carrying out 100,000 tests a day by the end of April. So let's
I believe that when I see it.
Plans for trying to get there. Firstly, Mr. Hancock spoke of swab testing in Public Health England laboratories and hospitals within the NHS. Now, these tests would be to see if people currently have the virus. The second pillar also addressed that swab testing, as well as within the NHS. The Health Secretary said there will be new facilities delivered by commercial partners, universities, as well as companies such as Amazon and Boots. We're working, he said, from scratch to build a new network of laboratories. The Health Secretary also said the government is working with 9 companies who are offering blood testing to see if an individual has had the virus. 3,500 antibody tests operated by Public Health England at their Porton Down Science campus. Well, see how the virus is spreading across the country. And a call to manufacturers, inventors and commercial developers to assist the UK's diagnostic capability to enable them to reach the 100,000 tests a day target. Our technology correspondent, Roland Manthorpe, has been looking at the government's plan and has this report on scaling up the tests.
Scaling up the tests, eh?
Test, the mantra goes. But how? One answer lies here, at Nikea in deepest North London, where NHS staff can go to a brand new drive-through testing centre.
When you see this in person, it's clear there's a big effort going into testing. But despite the scale of this thing, it won't even come close to solving the testing problem. Because when we spoke to the folk here, they said that less than 200 NHS workers have been tested this morning.
Some staff couldn't get tested at all.
I was going to, try to get a test, but nobody told me that you have to book for an appointment before. I cannot see my family now because obviously, I'm in contact with this patient and I want to make sure that I'm negative.
Logistics aren't the only issue. There's a shortage of testing equipment too. The Francis Crick Institute in London has converted its machines for a nearby hospital. By early next week, it should be conducting 500 tests a day. But the Health Secretary set a target of 100,000 tests a day. To meet that, experts say the key will be the government's new central lab.
There's a plan to syndicate a lot of different laboratories so that they're capable of administering, not only organising the tests, but also checking the samples. And that is a really quite, I think, a good way to do it. There's always concern, have we got the right quality control? But the countries that are doing widespread testing have all found that they have to do this.
100,000 tests sounds like a lot. The demand is soaring. Matt Hancock said the basic challenge was the small size of the UK's existing diagnostics industry. Someone who's part of that industry told us he disagreed.
I don't think the diagnostic capacity in the UK has been leveraged so far to the degree it could have been. To wit, I haven't been contacted and I've got a medical testing diagnostic laboratory that's on a public list And I've never been contacted. I think I'll wait a long time if I wait for the government, honestly. I've been doing all the running for the last 3 weeks, and it's been extremely frustrating.
From on high, the scale of the testing effort is undeniable, but it's slow going when results are needed quickly, leaving many people wondering whether a campaign that started late will arrive on time. Roland Manthorpe, Sky News.
So, while many cities and areas of the UK are already experiencing high levels of cases and deaths from COVID-19, some are still anticipating a surge over the coming weeks. In the area around Swansea and South Wales, preparations are underway to ensure the Trust's hospitals can cope with an increase in patients and pressure, including the training of hundreds of extra nurses and a field hospital with over 300 beds to cope with increased capacity. However, provisions of testing and protective equipment and the toll on NHS staff are still major concerns. Wales has now recorded 117 deaths from COVID-19. That's up 19 since Wednesday. It now has 2,121 confirmed cases. That's second only to London per head of population. 766 of those cases, just over a third, are in the Aneurin Health Board area. And Sky's Laura Bundock reports from South Wales on hospital care.
This is a first glimpse of the UK's front line fighting coronavirus. The COVID ward at Neath Port Albert Hospital only opened a day ago, but already beds are filling. They've space for 17 patients here, but most of the hospital has closed in preparation for many more.
I anticipate within the next few weeks we will be probably fill up, but we still have plenty of capacity in the hospital. So we hope that we will have sufficient capacity to cope with the projected demands.
Patients treated here aren't those needing critical care. They're being taken to Morriston Hospital in Swansea. The intensive care unit is currently full. With 28 beds, they're rapidly expanding to be able to ventilate 120 patients. It is a huge task.
These are unprecedented times for Morriston Hospital, for NHS in general, and worldwide healthcare. I would say we've never seen anything like it in our lifetime, and even people working a lot longer than us have never remembered anything like it.
In Wales, they're looking to learn lessons from London. With 1 in 6 staff here having to self-isolate, testing is a priority, but protective clothing is the big concern.
PPE is the only game in town at the moment. That's what staff want to talk about, because they are understandably nervous and they want that protection and they want to see that stock available to them. The reassurance for staff is seeing lots of PPE on site, and it's been the distribution that's been a bit slow. So we've had the assurance that the stock is there and it's never been a problem, but getting it on site has been taken a bit longer than we'd wanted it to.
They've trained an extra 300 nurses to help in critical care, but they're still 100 short. And for those working on the wards, shifts are stressful and at times upsetting.
There are high numbers of patients who are acutely unwell and they deteriorate quickly. When patients unfortunately do pass away, we aren't able to allow visitors in at that point. And that can be very, very emotionally draining for our staff here.
Not far away, they're building a makeshift hospital. The Ospreys Rugby Training Centre will soon house up to 320 beds.
It's hard to imagine now, but this will soon be a fully functioning field hospital. It won't have intensive care beds. Instead, the COVID patients brought here will be those starting to recover. The idea is it'll help ease pressure on hospitals as they reach the peak. When this facility opens, the coronavirus crisis will have heightened. We don't know when that will be, but for now they're planning and preparing and hoping it's enough. Laura Bundock, Sky News in South Wales.
Just to remind you again, we're currently bringing you extended editions of Sky News at 10 with full coverage and analysis of the very latest COVID-19 news. That longer bulletin means our first press preview will be slightly later than usual tonight at 10:45. then the regular one at 11:30. Joining us for a first look at the front pages, The Observer's chief leader writer Sonia Soda and the Mail on Sunday's deputy political editor Harry Cole. And this is Sky News Tonight. Coming up, British Airways promises there will be no unpaid temporary layoffs during the virus pandemic.
Well guys, hope you've all enjoyed the video. Give it a like, give it a comment. If you want to see that British Airways video, watch it on YouTube, watch it on another channel, or I may do another video later, just in case the phone fills up on the phone here. Thank you for joining me, and it's still very sad news that the coronavirus has gone up again across the country in many places of the world. Hopefully it gets better before it gets worse. Thank you for joining me. See you next one. Peace.